Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 7 of Visions of Tomorrow, the review series for Gran Turismo's selection of Vision GT concept cars. And in this particular episode we're featuring what is, so far at least, one of the best VGT cars that we've currently had. It's the Peugeot VGT. And this really is a fantastic car. It's better actually than I ever expected it to be, because with most of the manufacturers involved in the series, they don't really show that much imagination in terms of what the cars can do. They look nice visually, but that's pretty much as far as it goes. Most of them don't have particularly competitive performance, their PPs tend to be way too high, the fact that you can't tune them really hinders them overall, and so because of that, when we do get the rare occasions of those VGT cars which are actually really good and can be tuned, they stand out all the more, such as the first VGT, the Mercedes, which is still one of the best, the Tomahawk of course, which is completely OP, but people love it for that, and various others, and this Peugeot is one of those. It's one of the rare VGTs which has a tunable gearbox, which is fantastic news for someone like me personally, who got started on YouTube, or started Gran Turismo videos on YouTube purely by doing top speed videos. So this car really appeals to me personally because that's where my YouTube roots are. And whenever there's a VGT that doesn't have a modifiable gearbox, it always saddens me because it immediately tells me that I'm probably not going to end up using that car very much, because it means that its range of effectiveness is extremely limited. Whatever you get is what you get. With the Peugeot though, that's not the case, because you can actually tune the car and build it for different PP levels, for different tracks, for different purposes, and that makes it a fantastic car. Now, as I said, I didn't expect this car to be that good. If I recall correctly, it came out at the same time as another one of the VGTs. I may be wrong in thinking that, but I seem to recall the Peugeot came out with something else. I can't remember what the other car was that it was released with, but I expected it basically to be another underwhelming, fancy-looking show car, basically, but what we ended up with is actually a remarkable machine. Now, it's not without its downsides. It's not exactly the prettiest of machines. I'm not saying it's an ugly car, but it's no looker, especially if you compare it to its main rival, which is the GT by Citroën. But it more than makes up for that in terms of what it's capable of. Its sheer spec is remarkable. Something akin to a cross between a Le Mans prototype and a Pikes Peak Special. And that actually leads me to the car's second downside, and that is that we can't fit it with dirt tyres. And although that's not strictly speaking a downside as such, I think that's a real shame, because this car looks as though it was built for rallying. It has that jacked up suspension, the chunky looks, the rugged nature, and some very similar specs to Peugeot's Pikes Peak 208. But be that as it may, it is still a fantastic road racer. It has all-wheel drive, a mid-engine layout, and is powered by a 3.2 litre turbo engine. Now that engine puts out 918 horsepower with an oil change, which does make it one of the most powerful Vision GTs, and it only weighs in at a remarkably good 875 kilos, making it a lot lighter than it looks. That means that it is lighter than the majority of the Le Mans prototypes that are on the game. Thanks to the fact that it has more power than torque, it produces more than 1,000 horsepower per tonne. It's actually 1,049 with an oil change, and the PP is very high on this car, 706, even higher than the Veyron. But can it actually live up to that? Well, thankfully, I'm very happy to say it more than lives up to that. In fact, it's one of the most completely dominating 700 pp cars you can actually get. At the 700 pp level, it can actually beat the Tomahawk on some tracks, and that is no small feat to accomplish. It can actually outrun the majority of Le Mans prototypes at the 700 pp level, because it has advantages that they don't have. Not only is it lighter, but it also has that all-wheel drive, which means that you pretty much never have to worry about oversteer. It always has enough grip, and you can be more sure of the car's footing. You don't have to hold back as much as you would with a prototype. Now, in terms of straight line performance, it's no slouch. The acceleration is phenomenal off the line thanks to the ridiculous power to weight ratio and the all-wheel drive grip. The top speed isn't quite as amazing as its other attributes. It's not slow, it can do around 260 under its own power, so it's no slouch. It's around the same kind of performance as the Aston Martin DP100 and also the Subaru, and funnily enough also the Chaparral. So it's not bad. It is one of the quicker VGTs, and it can outrun most race cars on most tracks, because at the end of the day there are very few tracks where you actually go above 260. Pretty much the only one of note is of course the Le Mans, and most prototypes when tuned for circuit racing aren't going to be doing that kind of speed because of two reasons. One, people give them a lot of downforce, and also most of the time you'll be racing on the chicane version of the Le Mans. So this car is more than good enough for most tracks. If you take it around a circuit like the Nürburgring Ring, it completely dominates. You can get around that track in around 5.5 minutes or less, which is borderline insane for the car's raw spec. It doesn't have anywhere near the power of a Tomahawk or a Red Bull, but it gives you that kind of performance. It's an incredible machine, and it manages to do it in a very underwhelming way. It doesn't look as fast as it is, and I don't just mean the style, I mean the actual way the car performs. Even in the replay that you can see here, it doesn't really look quicker than a prototype, but it is. It's a phenomenal machine. For 1 million credits, it's superb value for money, and it even gives us the glitched black paint colour. So what more could you ask for? But that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.